Good afternoon. I would like to welcome everyone to OSEA and Public Service Canada's Federal Government Bidding Opportunities webinar. My name is Dan Goldberger and I'm the chairman of OSEA. OSEA is a not-for-profit association primarily led by SME members, small medium enterprise members, across all sustainable and low carbon technologies, from solar to geothermal to renewable natural gas. I would like to begin with just a few housekeeping comments. We'll endeavor to take questions, so please feel free to post them in the chat. But I know the presentation by Tyler is comprehensive, so we'll do our best we can to direct them if we have time. Also, this event is being recorded and posted to our website and possibly later also to our YouTube channel. Please visit the OSEA website to review the webinar at your convenience. So today we're going to obviously hear about the solicitation process for federal procurement, the bid and evaluation process and selection criteria, etc. And I'm just going to begin with a land acknowledgement, and then I'm going to turn it over to Tyler Van Donk, who's a team leader of procurement with the Government of Canada. So the City of Toronto acknowledges that we are on the traditional territories of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse nations, Inuit and Métis peoples. So with that, Tyler, I'm going to turn over the podium to you and go on mute. I think you'll hear people coming on as they are now for several minutes.
Perfect. Thanks, Dan. I'm just going to start off by sharing my screen. So if I could get some thumbs up and whatnot, once you see that pop up, that would be great. Perfect. Thank you. Let me just rearrange. Okay, perfect. So thanks for joining me today. As Dan said, my name is Tyler Van Donk. I'm a procurement team leader here at Procurement Assistance Canada. Today, we are going to be talking about bidding on opportunities. The presentation kind of covers the bidding process and the different methods of supply. I'll also demonstrate to you how to prepare your bid, how to help you understand the different evaluation processes that we take, as well as the selection processes. So quick overview on PAC. We are created as part of PSPC's support to smaller and diverse businesses in the federal procurement process. Our role is to engage with businesses and assist and inform them on how to sell their goods and services to the Government of Canada. We also look to increase opportunities in the participation by diverse businesses in the federal procurement. We do this by listening to your concerns, as well as helping you understand the process and identify opportunities. So today's presentation, like I said, is going to cover the nature of the competitive bidding process, the different types of procurement that the Government of Canada uses, the main elements of the solicitation document, how bids are evaluated, and how suppliers are selected, and as well how to follow up after you have bid and if you were unsuccessful. There are a lot of opportunities within the Government of Canada for small and diverse businesses. If you look at what we spend each year, a large portion of it does go to the small and medium sized enterprises. If you look at that, it does represent about 54%. If you do increase the award amount to 1 million, it does climb to 74%. So a lot of opportunity there for small and medium enterprises. Contracting with the Government of Canada. So like I said, I am from PSPC, or Public Services and Procurement Canada. We're the main procurement arm of the federal government. Really what the government believes in the procurement process is competition that brings best value for Canadian taxpayers. And more than anything, it's important that government activities be conducted in a fair, open, and transparent manner. We strive to do that in all of our competitions. So from what I'm going to show you today, I'm hoping that reflects it. Another thing, if you don't see that in a process that is posted, I do make sure you do engage us, because that's another, as I said, identifying those barriers. There's also some other regulatory bodies that if you are seeing something that you think is unfair, we can look at. Delegated authority from in many cases, department and agencies can directly purchase with you for goods up to 25K and for services up to 40K, and in some cases up to 2 million, depending on the type of service that is being contracted for. For procurement requirements over this, that's when they do need to engage Public Services and Procurement Canada. It's important for you to know this, because you're going to need to know who you're selling the goods and services to, and at which amounts, who you should be talking to. There are several trade agreements that do affect who is able to participate in our requirements when they're posted publicly. As you can see here, that the big thing when you can expect to have global competition is once a good or service contract is exceeding that $100,000 threshold marker of the Canadian Korea Free Trade Agreement, that is where it's going to indicate and jump in that there could be international businesses as well involved as well with that competition. So when we talk about competitive sourcing for goods over 25K and services over 40K, the most common type of solicitation is the request for proposal, or RFP. It's used to solicit for goods and services. It includes specific specifications of the goods or services that are required and describes the evaluation criteria that will be used to choose that winning bid. For complex requirements, suppliers may be invited to propose a solution to a problem, as opposed to telling us how they achieve the stated requirement that we have. There are two prearranged vehicles that I will get into further detail. It is the request for standing offer and request for supplier arrangements. Those are prearranged vehicles. It's important to note that tender notices will indicate what method of procurement is being used, and we'll kind of outline what that means for you as the prospective bidder. So different types of solicitation documents. As I said, the RFP, it's probably the most common one that you're going to see. It includes the specific goods and services that we're asking for. The request for standing offers to solicit for standing offers. So a standing offer is an agreement to supply either with pre-qualified suppliers to supply goods or services at a prearranged price under a set term and condition when and if required. So it's not a contract until another either federal buyer or that same buyer issues you a call up against that standing offer. That is when there's an actual commitment on the delivery of goods or services. The standing offer before that kind of just sets out the terms at which it'll be provided, how fast it'll need to be provided. The request for supply arrangement, or RFSA, is very similar to this, but it's more used to develop that list of prearranged suppliers. This is most common for our professional services, where you'll see that we're asking you to maybe qualify as a project manager. When we do then have a requirement for a specific project manager, say with some green tech project management aspects to it, that's when the government of Canada could say, hey, we have this requirement for an intermediate project manager. We do need this green tech experience within the project. So there would be then a opportunity for those pre-established suppliers who've pre-qualified to then bid on that opportunity for that service or good. So the similarities and differences of the standing offer, I get this all the time. They both sound very similar. A standing offer it's much more of like a commercial off the shelf type thing. So you're using it, the prices are predetermined, fixed. There's a set delivery time frame expectation. So a lot of our like pens and pencils, IT equipment, that type of thing that we have standard. We use the standing offers for a supply arrangement. The prices aren't necessarily fixed. There could be like a ceiling price. And that's the highest at which you could submit, because let's say you have a different range of project managers that are even that senior side. There could be a very experienced project manager that qualifies for that senior experience, that has that unique experience that does command a higher rate of pay. We do understand that. So that's the flexibility within those. What you will see as the same thing is they can either be set up nationally or regionally. They are 4 items that you see that high volume. So our professional services, I said, that's a high volume, and those commercial off the shelf goods. One thing that I do want to highlight is the CCPI, or Canadian Collaborative Procurement Initiative. So this is something that could be included within one of our solicitation documents. What it does, it allows for multiple levels of government to utilize this federal vehicle that we are setting up. So if you are seeing something with this CCPI, within the CCPI, terms, indicated within it, that does greatly increase the potential marketplace that could be utilizing. It's not just going to be federal government departments. We do have all of the provinces now signed up, and we have many municipalities and health agencies utilizing these tools as well. So if you see that, just know that there is a lot more potential in demand. Another thing that you could see is a request for information, or sometimes we call it a letter of interest. This isn't a bidding opportunity, but it is issued to kind of solicit information from the bidder community. This is the opportunity for businesses to really help shape the procurement and provide input and advice on how we're going to do the procurement process. I do really want to highlight this for the companies that are attending today. The government does have its green procurement initiative, and we're always looking to implement and kind of look for those green aspects. When you see an RFI, most likely it is for a higher complexity requirement or something like that. It's not necessarily the case. It is a kind of a requirement kind of that we're soliciting the market, that type of thing. You're going to see a reflection of the government's priorities there. So for right now, there is that green procurement. There's also the social side. You could see that Canada kind of asking what's in this marketplace type thing within this aspect. So if you're seeing an RFI, even if it's not asking for that green input, make sure that you're indicating that to the contracting authority, saying, hey, there are green alternatives out here in this space that could satisfy this requirement too. So really, like, this is your opportunity to kind of help shape how the government is going to fulfill that requirement. I did say that there was that we do strive to do competitive procurement for the most part. There are certain cases when we do non-competitive procurements. There are 4 reasons for that. So if it's a pressing emergency, and if there were delays, it could be injurious to the public. We have something like that. If it's low dollar value, so again, that $25K for goods and $40K for services, it might not be cost effective for us to run one of those large dollar, like one of those large procurement solicitation processes with an RFP. If it's not in the public interest, so there are times when we do need to invoke the national security exception. When we do that, it's because the information of that solicitation or something could compromise national security, and that's why we do invoke that clause. There is protocols for us to do that. Lastly, if there is one known supplier, so for those copyrights, licenses, or patent circumstances, we do need to justify that as well. If we do believe that there is a non-competitive approach and we only think there is that one supplier, one tool that we might take is an ACAN, or an advanced contract award notice. What this is doing is us signaling to industry that we believe that there's only one bidder that could fulfill this. It'll have that criteria that we believe that they're the only ones that can fulfill. It's usually posted for a minute. Sorry, it's not usually. It is posted for at least a minimum of 15 days. And this is your opportunity, if you believe that you meet this, to put in a submission against that, the technical criteria that they've indicated, to indicate that you are someone that could fulfill that. If there is a successful challenge to an ACAN, it does result in a competitive process being done. So 5 steps to bidding. We'll go through each of those individually. Step 1 is to review the solicitation document. Every bid's unique, so make sure that you read it carefully, follow the instructions, and read all the terms and conditions thoroughly. Skimming a solicitation document and missing out on one key requirement could result in a non-responsive bid. It's important to make sure you're not making any assumptions. If there is something you're uncertain about, make sure that, or if you find an error, make sure that you do contact the contracting authority for more details. You're allowed to submit questions in writing to the contracting authority before the deadline. Usually that deadline is either 5 or 10 business days before the closing of the document. You can find that within the solicitation document. Answers to the questions received from all will be posted for all bidders. And if there are any changes, amendments are also posted for all bidders to see. The contact information of the contracting authority can be found on page 1 of the solicitation document. So this is another part where I'm going to stop and kind of indicate, like, in this space that you're operating in, if you're seeing a solicitation that it has a requirement for goods that might not necessarily have that green lens to it, there are our departmental mandate letters from the Prime Minister's office, and that kind of sets out what we are supposed to be accomplishing as departments. So what you're going to see across a lot of departments right now are those green objectives, that type of thing. So if you're seeing a requirement where there are green alternatives, that's where you kind of want to say, you can go back to that contracting authority and say, I provide these green goods. I know that this is it's in the mandate letter. Has this been considered? Will you consider it? They'll either get back to you with the reasons why that will not be accepted for this, or you'll see an amendment that will result in the changing of either the requirement or the evaluation criteria. An overview of the solicitation documents. We're going to go section by section here. So part 1 is just the general information. It's going to give you a highlight or summary of what the requirement is, as well as any security requirements. Part 2 is the instructions to the bidders. This is going to provide you with clear instructions on how and when to submit your bid. If there are any mandatory bidders conferences or site visits, it will be included in this part. If they are mandatory, make sure that you are attending those. If you do not attend, that is grounds for automatic disqualification within the process. Part 3, bid preparation instructions. That's going to tell you how we would like that bid submitted to us, the number of pages, the different sections, et cetera, et cetera. Part 4 is the evaluation procedure. This is where we're going to give you both the basis of selection and the evaluation criteria for the document. 5 are any certifications. that you would need to provide us with. For the most part, there are, if a certification is not submitted, you are able to submit it after the fact. The contracting authority will come to you within, to provide it within X number of days. If you're unable to, that's at that point is when you'll be disqualified. So if you are submitting, that certification should be readily accessible. For ease in the process, if you can submit it with it, that would be great and preferred. Thank you. Part 6 is the resulting contract clauses. So this is where this is what you're going to see in that resulting contract if you are successful with those certain additions on like price, etc., and stuff like that, that you're going to include. Annex A, for the most part, will be the statement of work or statement of requirement. That's going to set out directly what we're looking for each requirement. Other possible annexes are the security requirements checklist, non-disclosure agreement, evaluation criteria, corporate profiles, or authorization letters. So your next step is going to be to decide whether you should or should not bid. Some things that you should ask when you're reviewing it is, are you able to provide the services? Do you meet the evaluation criteria? Will you accept the terms and conditions? Will you accept the basis of payment or pricing method, or should you partner with another supplier? For those first couple, if you're answering no, it's probably not a requirement for you. If you do have that capability of partnering with someone to maybe make sure that you're adhering to all those evaluation criteria, then that's something where you can consider a joint venture submission. Other things that you should look out for is constraints. Those terms and conditions, when we are going competitively, they are firm. So if you're unwilling to accept the terms and conditions, then I do not, if you're striking through anything on the terms and conditions side of things, it'll be, again, an automatic disqualification when we do go to award those. Other things you're going to want to consider is the different competition out there. If we're evaluating off of price, you're going to want to make sure that you will be competitive. Just give me 1 second here. I'm going to get the dog under control. Sorry about that. Where was I? Know the competition. Yeah. So if it is going to be lowest cost and you know that you're not going to be that price tier, it's not going to be for you. I know that's a big concern here for green companies because some of those solutions are more costly than the not green alternative. When we're evaluating bids, this is taken into consideration. Again, you can always engage the contracting authority if you think that there should be that consideration where you could be getting technical merit points if we're just going on a low cost bid, and you think it should be a combination of technical merit that might get that green alternative into the competitive range. You can always engage, ask those questions. So just know that that is something available to you. Security requirements, make sure that there has been a change that if you don't have security, you will need to comply to it at the time of award if you are successful. So just be aware of that process, and you'll be engaged afterwards. So if you are able to bid, then you're going to want to collect all the information about your bid. So the security requirements, as I said, make sure that you've kind of got that in line. If you're submitting electronically, make sure that you have the time, like you've taken the time in place to have access to the electronic procurement solution, to submit that bid, and then continue to monitor the solicitation. So if there are any amendments before the closing, you will need to make sure that you either submit a new bid or revise your bid that you submitted to make sure that it's complying with those changes from the amendment. Preparing your bid. Like companies that get many applications for resumes, for human resources and hiring processes, buyers receive many bids during the solicitation process as well. To make it easy for us to find the information that we need to evaluate within your bid, make sure your company can be seen as qualifying and moving on to the next steps. When preparing your bid, make sure you follow the format stipulated in the solicitation document, including signing that you accept the terms and conditions. This signature block's usually found on the first page, and you can see it with that red arrow there on the slide deck. You are going to be asked in your bid to provide various separately bound sections, such as the technical, management, and financial section. This is done to ensure the fairness in the process. In most cases, there are different evaluations teams looking at that technical and financial sections, just to make sure that the price isn't kind of affecting the evaluation side of the technical portion. So always make sure that you're answering each item in accordance with the evaluation criteria, and make sure you're providing all the requested information and clearly demonstrate your ability to do the work. You'll need to include all necessary supporting information that shows you meet the required information, and this will all be laid out within that criteria. The technical section. So this is where you're going to describe to the evaluation team how you understand the requirement. So make sure that you're reading through that requirement, you understand it, and you're submitting that technical portion that complies with the evaluation criteria, the technical evaluation criteria that we included in it. You're going to want to start with a short introduction that includes the evaluation of the current situation and the need for the project, as well as the objectives for the proposed work and carrying it out, as well as the benefits from it. Ensure that you include the work plan if required, the methodologies and techniques that you are proposing. Discuss the feasibility as well. So again, if you are proposing a green alternative, make sure that is really set out and the objectives that that's going to help meet, as well as certain objectives that it could help meet as well. Identifying tasks and deliverables in the schedule that you're going to be delivering, as well as providing that additional information that we've requested. So again, we're going to explicitly lay out what we're asking you to respond to. Make sure that you're putting all that information in the bid. So this kind of lays it all out. Respond to all the requirements, detail how they're going to be met, reference past projects, deliverables that support that. And then for the evaluation criteria, make sure that you're using simple language, and that each bid's evaluated just on its contents. We don't rely on your past experiences. So if we're asking for 4 years experience or something, and you were an incumbent in that position, we can't just say, yeah, we know company X, they've been here for the last 4 years. You're going to need to make sure we're only evaluating on the information that you provide in that bid. So make sure that you explicitly tell us that this is the information that we're requesting and it meets that objective. If there is a management section, make sure that this is kind of how it's laid out. It'll have the introduction to the team as well as the supporting documents. The financial section, it's really important that you kind of, if it is one of those standard submissions where there are the different sections, make sure you are breaking it out. Make sure that financial information isn't being displayed in that technical criteria, the technical section, because again, we're going to need to remove that, or in some cases it could disqualify the bid as well. There are two principal methods of payment. It's either firm fixed price that's used when it's easy to predict the cost, or there's cost plus, and that's either a certain markup or percentage that we would then agree upon, or you would put in your submission on the evaluation, and that's how you would then be reimbursed. So make sure that you're comfortable with the methods of payment and that you understand how you are going to be getting paid. Oops. Step 5 is submitting your bid. There's a few things to remember when you are submitting your bid. Make sure you know when it's due, and you're submitting it on time. You've got that proper time. Verify how your bid's supposed to be submitted. So right now there are a couple of different ways. There's either Canada's Post Connects online service or through our actual SAP Ariba EPS system. So each of those do require different logins. They are free. That information will be included in the solicitation document. So just make sure that you're referring to that and you know where and when you are supposed to be submitting that. And if it is that hard copy submission, make sure that you are signing the documents and that your proposal follows the outline that we've requested. Lastly, make sure that you review the bid and you make sure that all elements are being considered. At this point, it can kind of, this is where you could have someone else with a fresh set of eyes look at it. And they can kind of spot that one thing that you've missed within the package that could have made you non-compliant. So that's definitely making sure that you have a fresh set of eyes reviewing it. So as I said, there is part of our initiative to simplify the procurement process. We've moved to an electronic service that's fast, efficient, and a green alternative to submitting those paper bids. And it's Connect. So Connect's a secure online service provided by Canada Post. It's a lot like Dropbox or other services like that. And allows for large file transfers. So that's, again, where you're going to want to make sure that it's broken out into those different sections. It's able to handle secure requirements up to the protected B level. There is no fee to use the Connect service, but there is, again, that time to set it up. So make sure that you are connecting with the bid receiving unit to get your login to submit that bid on time. So that is kind of the bid evaluation, the bid submission process. And now I'm going to get into the bid evaluation process. Evaluation criteria are established in advance and taking into consideration time, quality, and cost. Bids are normally evaluated on the relevant technical merit and overall best value, in accordance with the basis of selection specified in the solicitation document. To ensure fairness, financial information is assessed separately from the technical information. Technical merit is defined in the solicitation. It can either be combined with price, equal parts best value, or for a given solicitation, best value is defined within the selection basis of selection. The evaluation may be based strictly on the mandatory criteria. It could be point rated criteria only, or a combination of mandatory and point rated criteria. Mandatory requirements. So these ones are really important, and I really stress when you're looking at a solicitation document, if there are mandatory criteria, make sure that you understand them. Your company complies in them. They're going to be the ones with words such as must, will, or shall. And for bids that are evaluated this way, you must meet all of them for that specified solicitation to be deemed a compliant bid. Some examples of mandatory requirements might include accessibility features of a good, bidders' financial stability, essential performance characteristics of equipment, performance specifications related to the services, delivery times, health and safety plans, holding specific licenses. There could be green criteria, exactly like ISO certifications or other things like that, that we're looking for either the goods or services to meet. Point rated criteria can be used to establish a minimum requirement by setting a pass mark that must be met in order to be considered responsive, minimum points that must be achieved, and the maximum points that can be achieved for each criteria are defined in the solicitation document. Point rated criteria are used to evaluate various elements of the technical bid. Evaluation teams use point rated criteria to evaluate value added factors such as over and above the mandatory requirements. These could include criteria such as strategy, principles, methodology, company, team, resource experience, facilities, equipment. As I've said previously, we're seeing more and more when there are two different alternatives, either putting that green criteria in as a minimum or mandatory requirement, or if there are two options, adding that the over and above point rated that would assist in achieving the best value. So if you have any questions about the point rating system, ask the contracting authority within the period allowed. Selection of a successful bidder. So basis of selection, there's basically three different ones that we're going to talk about. There's the lowest priced responsive bid. This is used when it's just a mandatory criteria. Once those have been satisfied, the one that has the lowest cost would be awarded. There is the best overall value that's based off of how either the scale or the price per point, and making sure that the mandatory and point rated criteria are being evaluated. And then there's the highest technical bid within a stipulated budget. So there will be a budget stipulated, and whoever's received that highest technical score would win. The next slide here is going to have different examples of that. So we'll get into that now just to kind of show you how things work. So in this example, we've got 4 different bids here. Lowest price responsive bid. So as you can see from the evaluations that took place, we were evaluating the technical execution team and company. There were minimum points that were needed for each of them. So as you can see, company A, B, and D did achieve the minimum score, so we then continued that evaluation. Company C didn't, so we stopped that evaluation entirely. The execution, again, all the remaining 3 were compliant. Unfortunately, company D in the team evaluation did not achieve the minimum score, so we then stopped evaluating. A and B both did achieve the minimum score required for the company evaluation as well. So now we only have 2 bids left that we are going to be evaluating. So for that minimum lowest price responsive bid, we can see that the price quoted for B is $440,000. They would be awarded the contract in this case. If it's lowest cost per point, company A did achieve a higher score of 91. And then when you do a kind of that, you go with the quoted price divided by the points achieved. Company A has a price per point of 5,120. So they are then the successful bidder there. If it's a highest responsive combined technical merit, 60/40, because there is that greater emphasis on the price merit, then that is when company B then becomes successful again. And then the highest rated bid within the stipulated budget, they're both within that, it would go to company A. Frequent reasons for non-responsive bids. So when we're evaluating these bids, if you're not meeting the mandatory requirements, that is going to result in a non-responsive bid. You didn't achieve the minimum points as well in a specific section, that will result in a non-responsive bid. If we are stipulating a budget, make sure that you're very aware of that, because if your bid does exceed it, it will be non-responsive. And if there's mandatory documentation that we requested and it was not included in the bid, that would be another reason for it. So let's say that you have gone through with a submission of a bid and you were unsuccessful. I don't want to discourage you, because we have these processes that we're running. We're getting several bids in. So if it's your first time, there is a chance, like a good chance, that you will be unsuccessful. One thing that the government of Canada does with all of our bids, like all of our contracts, is we do give you debriefs that can be done in person, over the phone, or in writing. And this is where we'll walk you through. If you were not successful within the technical criteria, we can kind of let you know, and this is what you submitted, this is what we were looking for, or this was your interpretation, what we meant by it, and with these references was this, that's why this was not successful. And all of that should be reflecting the solicitation documents that you received. If you're still not happy with the responses, there are other bodies that can handle complaints, depending on whether there is a international, like a trade agreement that was applicable. It would then go to CITT, or the Canadian International Trade Tribunal. If it's under that value, it would go to the Office of the Procurement Ombudsman. We do have a federal contracting fraud tip line. So if you are seeing any activity, it's a toll-free number. It is anonymous. We do appreciate it, type thing. As we said, we strive to make everything fair, open, and transparent. So if you're seeing something or within that industry that is raising the kind of hairs on your back, there is that help, that tip line that you can engage with. So just to summarize, things that you must be doing when you are responding to a government of Canada: make sure that you're reading all the terms and conditions thoroughly, you're meeting the mandatory criteria, you respond to all the sections regardless of the point value, you follow the bid preparation instructions completely, provide the number of copies of your bid requested if that is applicable, make sure that you fill in and sign all required elements, and you submit your bid on time and to the right place. Things that you should do: make sure your bid is organized and complete, concise, and precise. Include on the front page of your bid the reference number you've assigned to the bid, the PSPC file number, and the date and name, address, phone number of your contact person. Write an executive summary page that includes a table of contents. Put your logo and business name on every page. While responding to all criteria, pay attention to the sections that carry more points in the evaluation criteria. And again, make sure that you have that fresh set of eyes do the quality review on your bid before submitting it. And then again, after the contract has been awarded, if you were unfortunately unsuccessful, make sure that you are utilizing that debrief function, because it can really provide you that invaluable information when you are preparing your next bid. One thing that I do want to highlight, we are in a period of transition right now. Previously, you found all tenders on our buy and sell website. We have now shifted over to the Canada Buys, and that houses all of our government tenders as well as contract history. And that's where you register for the electronic procurement solution, or EPS, that's based out of SAP Ariba. Our buy and sell website still does exist. What it has there is the steps on how to register as a supplier, the different policies and guidelines that we have, the contacts that you want, the different initiatives and programs that we currently have within the Government of Canada, our upcoming events and seminars like this one, the ones that we run publicly, and our procurement applications. So again, we're transitioning. Make sure that you're reading all of the different solicitation documents. It is going to explicitly be clear to you on whether you're submitting through the EPS portal or if it's going to be through the Canada Post Connect service. Procurement Assistance Canada does have other seminars. There's the Doing Business, that's that general overview. We have the Finding Opportunities and our electronic tendering system. That's kind of where we walk you through how to find different opportunities. The session that you're hearing today, the Bidding on Opportunities, that kind of in-depth on each of the different processes, supplying professional services and obtaining security clearance. In Ontario region, we do offer 4 of those on a monthly basis. They're run the Wednesday of every month. And that's in the slide deck as well. We have our one-on-one sessions that we offer in the afternoons on Wednesdays. You can just register for those if you're looking for that customized one-on-one support. I myself am from Ontario region, but Procurement Assistance Canada does have offices across the country. If you are operating in those areas or looking to expand into them and trying to see if there is any government departments or anything operating that could be a potential customer for you, I would recommend reaching out to those regional offices because they're just a bit more aware of who's operating in their regions. So next steps, where do you go from here? Make sure that you're registered as a supplier. You make sure that you're downloading we do have reference sheets on preparing your bid that can really help you out. We do have our service guide and we can help you out there. We do have information sessions as well, or we have those one-on-one things, the one-on-one sessions. If there is something that's kind of a bit more personalized and you're just looking for that little piece of advice or within that system that's kind of holding you up, Procurement Assistance Canada can help you out with that. So yeah, that's the end of the presentation now. So I guess we'll open it up. I see that there is some stuff in the chat.
Yeah, there's a question there from Cynthia for you.
Sure.
If you can see it.
Give me 1 second here to read it. In most cases, so in that example, it showed that the evaluation process stopped. What I recommend and what a general practice is to make sure the entire bid is submitted. In most cases, they will be able to tell you all of the different points that you were unsuccessful on. I don't want to say that that's a generalization and stands for everything. Each procurement officer is a bit different. So if there were to be a challenge, let's say, and you were found non-compliant on one point and they didn't evaluate the rest, what would need to happen then is that a technical evaluation team would need to regather and finish the rest of the evaluation. So for the most part, most contracting authorities, as a good practice, make sure that entire evaluation is done. So they should be able to answer in most cases. If not, and it's that one, it'll just be that one that they're going to tell you on. But again, it's a case-by-case basis.
Any other questions for Tyler? Please place them in the chat. Otherwise, certainly a comprehensive presentation, very thoughtfully put together. So appreciate that. Seems like your answer worked. So thanks for that, Tyler. So in closing, if we don't have any other direct questions, I just wanted to thank Public Service Canada and Tyler Van Dont on behalf of OSEA and its membership for the great presentation. It's very informative. This was the 7th OSEA webinar or event of this year. So if you haven't considered becoming a member of OSEA, we'd love to have you. Please visit the website and consider that. And Manzi, I think you wanted to say a few words as well.
Yes, thanks a lot, Dan, and thank you to the OSEA team for hosting today's lunch and learn session. We're really happy and really hopefully that today's session was informative. We did provide some links here in the chat. And in terms of next steps, if there's any businesses that want to have a one-on-one follow-up with our office, you could email directly our office email that's here in the chat, and we can set up a one-on-one meeting with you at any point in time. We'll also send a follow-up email to Dan with the deck, and so that could be circulated to everyone, and we'll also have our personal contacts as well, so if you want to also reach out at a personal level. We are going to be planning in the new year some upcoming lunch and learn sessions that Procurement Assistance Canada Ontario region is going to be hosting. So some focused lunch and learn sessions that may be of interest to the clean tech community. So we're going to be actually hosting some lunch and learn sessions with some of our federal departments that are focused within the green and clean tech space. And so our first upcoming one will be in January, and that will be a collaboration with the Canada Revenue Agency. And so that won't be a specific focus for those that are interested in finding out about the various tax credits that are available for innovative businesses, and particularly for those in clean tech. So there is a SHRED program, the scientific research and experimental program, and so that could be of great interest for those early stage clean tech ventures. And so we'll be having a session on that in January. So look out for the registration on our event page, and we'll we'll be sharing this with the OSEA team, and it'll be great to collaborate on that session and some other upcoming sessions that'll be further along in February and March. So thanks a lot for hosting today's session, Dan and Leon, and yeah, looking forward to collaborating in here.
Terrific. Thanks for your time. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon, everyone. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.